Hi, it's Jeff Pulver, and welcome to Jeff's Place, and welcome to a very, very special edition of a Songwriters in the Round. Today we have four artists, songwriters, singers, who will be sharing the stories behind the music that they've made, sharing stories about themselves, and truly sharing the part of the art of songwriting itself. And really grateful to have four very special folks here today, bridging together people from literally around the world. We have Colm and Terence and Charlie and Simon, and each of them are prolific in how they write, how they sing, how they perform. And we have two artists that are in Ireland, and actually two artists from England, but one of the English artists happens to be in the States right now. So it's a wonderful show. And really, I want to say thank you to everyone who's part of this. And in the audience, if you have questions that come up while you're listening to the music, if you'd like to have a question asked, I cannot guarantee every question will be asked, but Lauren and Harry are here checking the chat, and we'll bring it into the fold. But I want to kick off the show by handing this off to Colm. And those of you to know the format, each artist will be doing one song in rotation, and we're going to go around do the round four times. Lauren, if you could please unspotlight me so I am out of the round and back into the gallery, if you could. And Colm, good afternoon. Could you properly introduce yourself?
Of course I can, Jeff. So, hello to everybody, and it's an honor to be here with three other incredible musicians, and quite intimidating too to be the one kicking off this show. But nonetheless, we'll give it a bash. So, I, since my early teens, I've been a huge fan of Captain Beefheart and Frank Zappa and people like that. And so, as I got more and more into folk music and bluegrass, I kind of appreciated artists like Randy Newman, who gave a little bit of wit, a little bit of satire in his lyrics, as opposed to just the obvious vernacular. He said one time that we should really have the same latitude as short story writers do, and we still don't have it. So with this song, I remember hearing a lyric that John Prine had discarded one time, and it was sort of in a collection of lyrics that never saw the light of day. And it was, "There's something up my chimney and it sure ain't Santa Claus." And so that kind of inspired some of the lyrics in this, or at least one particular lyric. And this is called "All I Ever Think About." It's a troubled mind that's turning every hour, every day, and a weary heart that trembles till each tear gets wiped away. And the notion that I'll be the reason you come back to stay, because all I ever think about is you. There's no oil in my engine, and there's no Santa in my sleigh, and a dark cloud's always raining on my graduation day, and my pillow tastes like all the dreams that I let slip away, and all I ever think about is you. Lemonade and wine, chocolate-covered valentine, a mistletoe with no one down below. We'll be right as rain, into the bark I'll carve your name. Just say you'll be my angel, buried in the snow. I never count my eggs until my belly starts to ache, and all my skeletons will dance until the ceiling starts to break. And it's a drag to sleep alone, and so each night I lie awake, because all I ever think about is you. All I ever think about is you. All I ever think about is you.
Well done. That was quite nice. So, Colm, I have to ask, how many people have you told you wrote that song about?
None.
None.
I used to introduce that on stage as
See, here I figured you meet someone, you say, "This is a song for you." Then a few days go by, 2 months go by, and you say, "You inspired me for this song."
Unfortunately, young women my age don't appreciate the sentiment of 1940s bluegrass, you know?
Wow,
So,
they're lost.
or lyrics like that. So I used to introduce it on stage. I can see Nathan Mac laughing. I used to introduce it on stage. It was dedicated to my love of coleslaw.
Really?
Yeah. Which I used to get awful stick when I would arrive to gigs. I'd bring a small packed lunch, and I had the nickname coleslaw sandwiches a lot of our gigs for a particular
Wow.
tour.
Coleslaw. You never
Well,
know.
more than just coleslaw, but yeah, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, amazing. Well, thank you. And a wonderful way to open the show. And
Thank you,
Terence,
Jeff.
I want to hand it over to you and say thank you and ask you to do a proper introduction for you about yourself for those who may not have heard you here before.
I can you hear me all right? Yep.
Yes, yes.
Really enjoyed that song by Colm. I was going to ask him. I've been writing songs for the last 10 or 12 years, and I write some about the world in which we live, which is increasingly weird. And so sometimes the songs are funny, sometimes they are serious. And the song I was going to sing first, what I was going to ask Colm is whether this happens to him, because this song that I'm starting with started out as I thought it was a funny idea, but as I started working on it, it became more and more serious. So it was a bit like, it's like novelists saying their characters take over. It's a bit like the song takes over. And I'd be interested to hear from all of the songwriters here is if the song goes in a strange direction, that, that it takes you in a direction that you weren't expecting.
All the time. When something like you take a song like that one, all I ever think about, I call it Groucho marksmanship, where sometimes it's nice where there's a little bit of sadness behind something that to the casual listener, it's kind of a bouncy, supposedly happy song. I like that though. I like where there's a little bit of a dark edge to seemingly contented things.
But does it?
That's where your Randy Newman comes in.
I think so. Yeah.
I just want to say I write songs with Colm, and I've never actually met him in the flesh. We've never actually been in the same room, but we write songs all the time together. He sends me little ideas, and I often wonder when I send them back, was that his original intention at all? Because I would take it in a certain direction that I would see the song going and send it back. Does that happen, Colm? When I send you back a song, you say, "Oh, Chickers, I didn't really want to go there with it."
But 9 times out of 10, it's a far better direction, because usually I'll have like a germ of an idea or like an embryonic idea, and then you'll see. And for me, like I often say when myself and Charlie are writing together, I'm not precious in the least. It's not like I'm clinging on to a sentiment or anything. So 9 times out of 10, most occasions, Charlie will just bring it somewhere far better than I could have thought of, which is.
I know I wouldn't say that, but far different anyway.
No, I definitely think so, and I think that's the makings of a great songwriting partnership. Like me and Charlie, I counted the other day, I think we've amassed 48 songs together, and we've never been in a room together.
Wow.
Yes, gas, isn't it? Well, the pandemic would have a lot to do with that too.
Sure.
The pandemic would have been the reason,
Well, I'm really grateful to help bring the two of you together, at least on the same virtual stage here.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
How does it work though? Do you send a lyrical idea or just a bit of a melody? How does it technically work?
It could be anything, to be quite honest with you. It could be a bit of a melody, maybe even a song title sometimes. A song title, I find if I get the song title and the idea, I'm away, because somebody you're sitting there banging your head against the wall and you can't think of anything on to write about. And then Colm will send me just maybe 2 or 3 lines of something, and I can see where that could go. And it also, I think, the fact that you then have an audience, whether you like it or not. The Colm is suddenly my audience, so you're kind of working to see, does he get what you're getting at, if you know what I mean. I think that's the great thing about collaborating, really, is that you've got somebody to bounce the idea off, so it's
I have I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. Regarding collaborations, I've written by myself and I've written with other people, and I much prefer writing with other people. And for anyone out there, and I think all of us fall under this category now and again when you get writer's block, in that every key has its own soul, its own stamp, as it were, like E major, and you change that to E minor, or you go to A and change that to A minor, it completely gives a different slant or use a capo. You can go up, the capo is a wonderful instrument for getting rid of writer's block, and it really does happen. But writing with someone else I wrote a song with a guy called Gary Burr in Nashville, a really very good writer. And he kind of, I played it for him, and I was really nervous because this guy's written over 1,000 songs and he's won awards. So when I actually sat down and played the song for him, he said, nah, But he said, and before my heart sank too low, he said, but the middle eight's great. So he transplanted the middle eight, and we wrote this song, which I'll play a little later in the show. And what a difference that makes. Had I not written with him, that would have just fallen by the wayside. So collaborating is a very, very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a song that I haven't collaborated with anybody, but it is exactly what Colm, you're all talking about, which is that it started out as a song. I was thinking about how the flower people, the beautiful people of the 60s, how they're all a little bit wilted. The flowers are wilting and dying, and it was going to be a funny song about that. It just seemed to be. But then, as I started working on it, I started thinking that actually, in this rather tricky time in which we're living, that all that stuff about peace and love and understanding, and suddenly you think actually that's not such a bad idea. We could do with it. It's not really a joke. The 60s have become a joke for many people, but actually a little bit of the 60s spirit wouldn't go amiss right now, to tell the truth. So this song, which started out as being sort of comical in its inspiration, became a little bit more serious. So this is, and then the other thing that came into it is I like little quotes of songs. So you'll see there are little steals in the chorus here. He's a little short of breath and a little short of bread. Quite a few of his friends these days are dead. There's been a few bumps along the road and the odd wrong turning, and his pace has slowed, but his eyes are on the way ahead. She's been a little more married than she'd advise. She always ends up with the wrong kind of guys. Though she'll admit she's not much of a picker, with the help of her friends and a little strong liquor, she's kept that light in her eyes. And we're still searching for that heart of gold in the windmills of our mind. We're still singing la 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 la, and looking for that home we hope we'll find. Some have gone too fast and some too slow. Some aimed too high and fell too low. And on the way they shed a few ideals, and they kept on trucking. Though they lost their wheels, they were always last to know. They were the children of the sun, making love not war, forever young. And though the years grow dim over their shoulder, they didn't grow wise as they grew older, but their song is still being sung, and we're still searching for that heart of gold in the windmills of our mind. We're still singing la 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 la, and searching for that home we hope we'll find. times are changing, we used to say. Yeah, well, it was true back then and it's true today. So let's sing a song of celebration for my generation before we all fade away. And we're still searching for that heart of gold in the windmills of our minds. We're still singing la 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 la, and looking for that home we hope we'll find.
Well done. What a great song. I like the way you did sampling.
Yeah, there's a little bit of sampling there, yeah.
That was great.
That's a nice form of sampling. Lyrically.
You know what? I mean, I loved it. I thought the lyrics were great, and the whole alluding to Paul Simon, the Boxer, Neil Young, the Who, and the Stones. I might have missed a few others, but what I really liked about it was the chorus, the way it jumped up. I don't know, 3 half steps, which was or whatever it was, but it kind of lifted. It lifted like all good choruses should. It really lifted the song into another. And, you know, Irving Berlin did the same thing because he couldn't read or write music and he could only play an F sharp. And he had this piano made where he had a lever on the side of the keyboard and the whole thing went up 3 half steps. And if you listen to any of Irving Berlin's songs, his middle eights, his bridges were like, whoa. And that was reminiscent, Terence, of Irving Berlin. So my hat comes off to you.
Well, thanks.
You know, since the pandemic, a lot of people our age, Terence, have become computer literate. There are people now using computers that never used computers before. I'm 70 at this stage of my life, and thankfully I was always computer literate. But a lot of people now are suddenly tuned into Facebook and Twitter and all these things. People my age who never would have, because it became a necessity. So I think there's a market for you and I, Terence. Now, you know, we could start writing songs about the 60s that people would actually recognize what you were talking about there. You know, I wonder, would an 18-year-old get the allusions there?
I think they probably wouldn't, but I think it's very interesting because I don't know about you, Charlie, but I don't feel like an old guy. I just feel as if I'm me still. And I think this is something new about our generation. We're not going quietly. We're fighting and kicking. It's not very dignified. Yeah. And some people might think it's a bit ridiculous, but actually we're still us. And I think that makes songs about this stage in our life really interesting. And that I love your songs because they don't pretend to be anything but a reflection of you now. And I think you're right. The computer makes the internet makes that more accessible as well. So it's interesting, I think.
I just feel confused a lot of the time, mainly, again, going back to Colm, because Colm, I think, at the last count, I think you were 28, Colm. And my big music is music from the 20s, 30s, 40s. That's the music that I really enjoy listening to and still do. And I kind of think, how does Colm know about this music? You know, that's like something from the last century or even the century before. Yeah. And yet you seem to be into that, Colm.
Dream rises to the top, Charlie, I guess, you know, I mean.
Yeah, the music is great. Yeah, the music.
Absolutely. And there's been nothing, you mentioned on a Beatles group page the other day, you were saying, I don't think there's been anything to match something like the Beatles, certainly not like the melodic and harmonic sophistication, and there really hasn't been. And I was really impressed, Terence, that you included a Noel Harrison reference in the lyrics as well. Windmills.
Oh yes, Windmills of Our Mind.
I thought that was lovely.
I'm a bit worried that I might get hit for a claim on royalties. I don't know whether you can claim royalties for die da die la 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 la.
It's a nice sampling, you know. It's all good.
That was lovely.
Wow. Be wary of Paul Simon, because I had a song called 50 Ways to Love Your Liver. and I wanted to put it out on one of my solo albums, and he wouldn't give me any clearance. So I think you're fine. 6 notes, you'll be fine there. Terence.
And it's not as if Paul Simon hasn't done a bit of borrowing himself, to be candid, has he?
But certainly from his early days in the 60s when he was playing the English folk clubs, I mean, Scarborough Fair was I don't know whether he ended up owning the rights to Scarborough Fair, but it was an English folk song, I think, originally.
Wow.
Yeah.
An American tune was stolen straight from Bach, wasn't it?
So I believe, yeah.
Wow.
Back can't sue. He's too old.
But funny enough, I think actually Bach stole that as well. I remember watching a thing on YouTube where it shows that particular sequence.
You're absolutely right.
He had stolen, yeah. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. I think we're going to head over to Charlie.
Okay. I'm Charlie. I'm living in Leitrim, which is up in the northwest part of Ireland, in a small town called Drumshambo. And I've lived there for nearly 49 years at this stage. And it's just a beautiful place to live, wonderful people around the place, great music, lots of Irish traditional music, particularly. And I'm a big fan of Irish traditional music as well as everything else. I suppose I'm just a fan of music. Somebody asked me, what kind of music do you like? I like good music. And that's about it. If it's good, it's good. And no matter what genre it's coming from. Somebody was talking about the Beatles earlier on. I'm going to sing a song. I've been a Beatles fan since 1962 and I've followed them. And the great thing about being a follower of the Beatles is that we grew up with them. They started off, with She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, and Please, Please Me. And bit by bit, it got on to Rubber Soul album and then, Revolver and then the climax of Sgt. Pepper's. So we all grew with them, they've never failed. I still go back to them all the time. Although, Colm, you mentioned that Nothing Is Real website. They started talking about Harry Nilsson. On that, they had a full program and I had sort of ignored Harry Nilsson until yesterday, and now I've had him on night, noon, and morning. He's just a wonderful songwriter, is Harry Nilsson, great and very big with the. Anyway, I'm talking too much. This is a song called "The Man from 20," and the 20 is a place called 20 Fortland Road, where Paul McCartney spent a lot of his young life, and we went there one day to visit on the Magical Mystery Tour, and the caretaker who lived in the place, and I was sort of, geez, wouldn't it be great to be living in Paul McCartney's house? But he turned out he had no interest whatsoever in the Beatles or music or anything like that. I don't think he even knew who Paul McCartney was. So I wrote this song with another collaboration with a friend of mine called Eileen McCoubry, who's a radio presenter called Maxie. It's called The Man from 20. I'm the man from 20, kindly form a queue. Those who do remember, let me look at you. Yes, I'm the man from 20, and I've yet to see his face. I get a burger from the takeaway and dance back to his place. They've got his old piano here, and someone played a tune, and someone sang along with them, and we danced around the room. Yes, I'm the man for 20. I've been me for a year. Teary eyes and silence, and I deaden it with beer. And once he came a-knocking, he didn't have a key, and I was busy shopping when he needed me. Oh, I hate dancing sober, 'cause I feel like such a fool. I'm a Liverpool loafer, and they say that I must be cool. Mary calls at midnight. There's flour on her hands. She talks of tiny babies, angels in the sand. Michael's on his bicycle. He says he saw our kid. Jimmy trims the hedges as she watches from the bed. And Minnie's at the innie, and letters for the Queen. collars shaped like roundabouts, all the things I've seen. And early in the mornings, ladies come to stare. Jenny puts her penny on and she says, Daddy isn't here. Yes, I'm the man from 20. Kindly form a queue. Those who do remember, let me look at you.
Wow. Well
Thanks.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's beautiful storytelling. My goodness. Wow. That was quite nice.
Reminiscent of John Prine. I love that too, for that finger picking. I never really do that. You and Colm, well, and Terence, you play it so well. That was a lovely song, Charlie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Explain to me. I'm sorry, I missed the 20. What was the 20?
Well, he lived in a place called 20 Fortland Road in Liverpool.
Oh, okay.
And so the man from 20 is actually the caretaker. And there's a little dream sequence in there where Paul's mother, Mary, she was a midwife, and she'd go off. She might be baking a cake or something, and suddenly the phone would ring. She'd have to go off.
Let it be. Mother Mary comes to me.
Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
So a bit like Terence, I suppose, in the references there. I asked people to sort of, the minis at the Innie are, you know, when they went to the institute, that's where he went to school, and letters for the Queen. He actually wrote a letter to the Queen one time on behalf of the school. So it's all those little references. Again, mean nothing to anybody else but me.
But well shared. Wow.
Could I ask Charlie who his favorite songwriters are? I'd be interested to know what his biggest influences are.
I'd say any of the Beatles for start off. You know, they still, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Randy Newman, of course, big influence. James Taylor, I think for a lot of us to play guitars, because James particularly has a very unique style of playing, and no matter how you play, you never get it exactly the way he does. There's something very special and unique about how he strokes the strings or whatever, you know. Who are yours, Sam? Who would your favorites be?
Well, it's interesting. It's Randy Newman's getting a very, very good plug this evening, because he's a bit of a god of mine, because I like songwriters who pull together the comical, you know, the humorous, as Colm was saying. I like something that has a little bit of tug of humor, but that's serious underneath it. And I think that's true of all writing. I think all writing has got to have a little tug of humor, even if it's really serious. And so I love Randy Newman. I love people like Gillian Welch, and quite a few country writers. But I like you, Charlie, and like Colm. I don't know about Simon, but I'm hooked on the 20s at the moment. I'm completely 1928 and 1929. There are just so many amazing songs. So, you know, people like Hoagie Carmichael and Matt Waller and Cole Porter, and I just think those songs are so clever and so heartfelt and so extraordinary that that's my, you know, if I could write a Hoagie Carmichael song, I think that would be.
Do you remember Jake Thackeray at all? Do you remember him?
Yes, I was just thinking of him. I was going to say, you got to listen to Jake Thackeray. That's amazing.
Yeah. He used to on a TV show with Sister Josephine and great songs like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
La Di Da. You remember that one?
La Di Da. Yeah. Colm, don't tell me you remember Jake Thackeray, Colm.
I love Jake Thackeray. Yeah.
Oh, what about that? That's amazing. Isn't it though? There's, I mean, several generations between us, and we've both honed in on the same type of people. It's weird.
Yeah. His lyrics were just stunning. Like, there's one performance of the La Di Da where he talks about a friend of his who his mother-in-law had never quite grasped the English language, and he says she'd pick up a salt cellar and hold it to the light, and she says, you know, Charlie, if you stare into that, you'll see all the colors of the rectum.
Oh my goodness. Maybe on that note, we're going to hand it over to Simon. My goodness. Wow.
Nellie Mackay, you know, the lady Nellie Mackay, singer-songwriter, plays piano. Her lyrics are, I mean, so clever. Nellie Mackay, she's a lovely, lovely looking lady, but her songs are just unbelievable, exquisite. So just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm a fan of the 20s and 30s. Irving Berlin and
Cole Porter.
Cole Porter, Jerome Kern, another great writer. Yeah, they just had a piano. That's all. No computers. They just did it.
Fats Waller is another one, you know,
Yeah.
great songs that have lasted down the years. I still sing Ain't Misbehaving every night in the gig, you know, it's just one of those songs that's in there, you know.
And again, a guy who could put so much wit. I mean, like one of his songs, "All That Meat and No Potatoes," or "Your Feet's Too Big," you know, just so funny. So funny.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
All right, Simon, could you properly introduce yourself?
Unmute?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay.
Just for those watching and listening, I just introduced you as Simon. So.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, my name's Simon Kirke. I'm primarily I'm a drummer, and I played with Free for many years, and then Bad Company, and that's still my band after nearly 50 years. But I took up songwriting, in Free, and actually one of the first song I'm going to play with you, I was getting over a love affair, and I think your heart never beats more passionately than when in your first love, when you're a teenager or in your early 20s. And I wrote this after a breakup, and Paul Rodgers helped me finish it, so he gets a credit. He's a pretty good singer-songwriter himself, and so here it is. It's called "Love You So." And by the way, before you go, I just want to say I love you so. If it's goodbye, maybe for good, I'm not gonna cry, maybe I should. I love you. Oh, how these years have slipped away. We shed no tears, so why today? And all this time has made me feel love is no crime, and love is a real. And I love you. Remember me when you're far away. I remember you no matter where I stay. One thing left for me to say, and that is I love you so. Now I'm leaving today. One last thing I want to say. You were my life, you were my soul. Living with you, it made me whole. And I love you. You know that I love you. And I'm gonna miss you. Know that I love you. Love you so.
Wow, it's absolutely beautiful. My goodness, wow.
Thank you, guys.
So Simon, so as a drummer, when you're composing music, are you composing it on the drums first? Are you going like where do
Oh
you go? Is
no,
it guitar,
no,
piano?
no. I mean, I'll give you a quick thumbnail sketch. I took up playing guitar. I've been playing guitar as long as I've been playing drums, thanks to a judge in Shropshire, where I was brought up on the border of Wales. My neighbours were complaining because drum kit when you're 13,
Sure.
it sounded like like a terrorist attack every night. So they took me to court. Or my parents went to court because I was too young. And the judge was one of these crusty old geezers, with pince nez glasses. And apparently he said, well, this young man, he seems he wants to play drums, but he can only play for half an hour a night and only after he's done his homework. And he banged the gavel and that was it. So I could only practice half an hour a night. And at 8:30, my mum would come up and say, no more, And my brother had a guitar. He was in the army. He had an old Framus guitar. It was electric. It had no amp, but it was in the corner of his room. And I picked that up and I started playing along to Beatles records. And the first song I ever learned was She Loves You. And it ends on that G6, that weird, I thought, what the hell is that? So I bought a book on chords and I learned to play guitar. Thank God, because otherwise I wouldn't, I earned quite a bit of money from writing songs.
It's interesting, Simon, that when you lean to the G6 there and listening to your song, a gorgeous song, by the way, but there's so many gorgeous voicings in it. Do you find that sometimes if you're stuck for inspiration from a melodic perspective, that you could just kind of strum an interesting A minor 11 chord or a sharp 13 and that'll just bring something out in you?
For sure. Great observation, Colm. I bought a book of guitar chords for guitar and piano. And one of the chords was this weird resolving to an E. This was F sharp or augmented flattened in 11, some weird thing. And I wrote a song, which maybe at another time I'll talk about. But that chord, that weird F sharp, inspired me to write what I thought was kind of a clever lyrics about me and a Jewish girl. And I actually married a Jewish girl for 33 years, and I still have the scars to prove it. But this chord, and that's a great observation. It inspired me to write this song. So I would say to anyone out there, if you're kind of stuck and it's C, F, G, A minor, the same pattern of chords, go to something or put a capo on the guitar. And just experiment, because you will get a little thunderbolt, not necessarily straight away, but it will help move the debris and help you, write a little more.
Wow.
So,
could I ask Simon, has being a drummer influenced your songwriting at all? I mean, that whole business. I remember Paul Simon saying that when he's thinking about when he's thinking of a new album, he starts with a rhythm, and it's the rhythm which sort of informs everything else. Does that happen with you, or do you think the strumming and the guitaring are completely separate?
I wrote a song called Warm Gulf Waters, and it starts with this. It's boom, 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 chicka, boom, 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 boom. Had I not been a drummer, I don't think that rhythm would have happened. So yes, it does certainly help, especially with more up-tempo songs. Being able to play drums.
Have you seen the movie The Sound of Metal yet?
I have, and it's wonderful.
Wonderful movie, isn't it?
Absolutely. And he never played drums before the movie. For the people out there who haven't seen it, it's about a heavy metal drummer who's going deaf. And he's not only that, he's in recovery. He's in a 12-step program from heroin. And it's just the most phenomenal. This guy is an English Pakistani guy, and he learned drums for that, for the movie. Wonderful. I hope he gets an Oscar. I know he's been.
He deserves it. It's great. And the sound, I think, if nothing else, the sound, the fact, the way they depicted the deafness and how, what it must be. It would make you would be so scared, you know, that it would happen to you, you know.
Yeah,
God,
my head is getting a
the
little
worst thing that could
dodgy,
happen.
you know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Simon, while we're chatting, actually, and I think there's a lot of young songwriters who are in the audience here too, and I could ask this question of Charlie or Terence, but while we're talking to yourself, what advice would you give to someone who wanted to get into the music business? Sort of tips for maybe longevity, like looking after yourself. You looking back in your career, what advice would you give for someone who wants to enjoy a long career?
To have a long career, you got to be productive. And I know this sounds a cliche, but you got to stay away from drink and drugs. You really have. And I'm in recovery myself. And one of the next songs I'm going to play is about that. But honestly, without sounding like an old fogey, I've been there many, many times. And people who know me know that I have a history of abuse, substance abuse. And it really got me nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Also, never be afraid to ask and collaborate. Don't think you got the whole songwriting world on your shoulders, because you haven't. There's so many avenues out there, and especially now with social media, that you can dial up anyone or log on and you can share in real time with Zoom. You can and just try and apply your craft. Lyrics are hard for me. I'll be honest. Lyrics are much harder than playing music, and I find it very hard to come up with lyrics. But and I cheat a little bit. I'll be honest. If I get stuck, I pick up a CD and look. Oh yeah, that's an interesting little thing. Billie Eilish. She's a fantastic songwriter. She did her album in her bedroom, but her lyrics are so clever and precise and lovely. And never be afraid to ask for help with lyrics. And it's kind of hard to do it by yourself now, I find.
I find the Ryman dictionary. I have a Ryman dictionary, and what I like about it is it takes you into it. You might be looking for a word to rhyme with mountain, and you'll see something, fountain or whatever the word is. Why don't I change the song? I'll go around and start this song about a fountain instead of a mountain. It'd be much better. You know, I do that all the time, and I find the Ryman dictionary takes me into all kinds of changes. You know, why did I not think of that first? You know, because you see all these rhymes, you know, the words that you could fit in, you know. I think it was the best investment I ever made was a Ryman dictionary, and I even have one online now as well, so it's just good, you know.
Wow. This is amazing one time around, and I love the storytelling, and I really appreciate all of you being open and sharing and really supportive. This is absolutely beautiful. Wow, I'm just listening here in the background, but I'll say, Colm, it's your turn to take the stage, take the guitar.
It's so tricky following such amazing artists, but however, we'll just roll on and pretend nobody else is there. So, this is a song from my debut album, A Voice for the Urban Darlings, and we were talking a lot about song narrative, and Simon mentioned lyrics. And with this one, a lot of my songs at the time when I was writing songs for my album had kind of if there was a sentimental song, there was a twist. So it might be happy, 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 and then you hit the bridge, and it's like, oh, but then she broke my heart, kind of thing. And I didn't want that to be the case with this one, and so I wrote it about somebody. He could be a mailman, he could be someone who works at a desk every day, but the reward in his life was coming home to the one that he loved, and it was just a very, very simple sentiment of a song. And the opening line, Radio K105, good morning, how have you been? I've always been fascinated by American radio, and so I don't know if there is a Radio K105. I've been asked this before, but we'll soon find out anyway. This is called Honeybee. Radio K105, good morning, how have you been? There's an angel sleeping in my bed, if you know just what I mean. When we met, I felt she knew me. When I'm low, she sees right through me. With the brightest eyes my eyes have ever seen. She's my honeybee, sweet taste of honey got a hold of me, you see. My honeybee knows me, and she's my honeybee. She gives me all the loving in the world for free. You see, nobody knows my bee. Don't nobody know my honeybee like me. She don't eat meat, gives up her seed for the ones who need it most. I know each line of the book she reads, she knows the way I like my toast. And if I thought that I was dreaming, I'd wake up each night screaming, just to find myself in the arms I love the most. She's my honeybee, sweet taste of honey got a hold of me, you see. My honeybee knows me, and she's my honeybee. She gives me all the loving in the world for free, you see. Nobody knows my bee. Don't nobody know my honeybee. Nobody knows my honeybee. Nobody knows my honeybee. Quite like me.
Just absolutely beautiful song.
Thanks, guys.
You know something, Colm? I think you're going to be the John Prine of this generation. That was just gorgeous.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you
I
so
love
much.
the, I believe, was that drop D, but with capo on the second fret?
That was it. Yeah.
That was, had that been in regular drop D, it wouldn't have had that little, it kind of sparkles with the capo. It's just that extra. And it also, capo improves the action of the guitar a wee bit. When you go up past the second or third fret on a capo, the strings are that much closer to the neck, I find. And it's just, but the song was beautiful, Colm. It was really, really beautiful.
Thanks so much,
well done.
son.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
But was that a personal one, Colm, or was it just a song?
Yeah, no, and I hate to say that in a kind of a throwaway way, but it wasn't a and it's funny because there's very few of mine that are. I can't think off the top of my head of any deeply personals, because I think like when I first started out and I was playing the open mic scene in Dublin, every other person got up and sang these Rose dying on the vine type songs of like, she left me, my heart's broken, life's over, that's it. And I just felt like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, like, I had a reasonably contented teenage life and early 20s. So there wasn't that urge. And I loved people like Randy Newman and Fats Waller and Jake Thackeray and Harry Nilsson as well. I mean, I loved the fact that you didn't have to write about, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Or the power of love, you know what I mean? So I was just more drawn to things that have a bit of a jaunty lilt. Like there's a lyric in it that I got a lot of stick for. She don't eat meat, gives up her seed for the ones who need it most. I know each line of the book she reads, and she knows the way I like my toast, which I thought was kind of a cute lyric, which I still get a lot of stick for. But I'm just drawn to...
Is that from the feminists? You get the idea that she's making your toast in the morning, giving you your breakfast, serving you? Is that what they're talking about?
No, it was a producer friend of mine, Ken Baker, and he's like, that's such a lazy lyric. Like you could have come up with, and I was like, it's intentionally that way. How much more profound are you going to get? You know, if you want to move from toast to croissant.
Well, that's quite a good lead into the song I'm gonna play now, which is absolutely, it's not a love song. It goes back to what you were saying, that quote from Randy Newman about saying he wish songwriters had the freedom that short story writers have. And what caused that quote was that he got into trouble, like other people, like Mark Knopfler's got into trouble, when he wrote songs like Rednecks, like Short People, which are in the first person. He's saying I, but the narrator, like the narrator of lots of novels, is not Randy Newman. And that seems to be a bit of a problem with some listeners of songs. And that's what he was saying, that people should relax and face up to the fact that just because he comes up with some outrageous lyrics, that's not him. That's his narrator. Anyway, all of which is an introduction to a song which is about a marriage. So this isn't me. It's a marriage that's getting tired and it's going a little bit wrong. And so it's going in one of those peculiar directions that a marriage can. So it's a story song, which again, it started out as being a comedy idea, then it got a little bit more serious. Our loving cup has recently been running rather dry. Something's missing in your life, I'm almost sure. To cheer you up, I've thought of something you might like to try. It's an old traditional cure. Maybe you should have an affair with some good-looking younger guy. He'll be slightly dumb with a pert little bum which one day catches your eye. At first it won't be an affair, but you'll both soon discover that your heart to heart start to reach the part conversation doesn't quite cover. One night you'll be beside him, you'll be driving in his car. He says he'll take you home because it's dark. You stop to talk things over at the local public bar. Then suddenly you're at it in the pub car park. You'll think that it's not serious, it's just a bit of fun as you teach your young dog new tricks. But soon you'll find you're doing things that you haven't done since 1996. I'll know all about your affair. It will be so plain to see. From the swing in your hips and the smile on your lips, I'll just know wasn't put there by me. But I'll be cool about your affair. I won't sulk or go berserk. I'll be safe and sound on the high moral ground while you're out doing all the work. 'Cause he'll want it when he sees you before you've time to think. He'll have to have you right there and then. And you'll have had a busy day and you'll be dying for a drink. And all that you'll be thinking is, here we go again. And he'll take you to the highest peak and then he'll take you higher. Your deep and secret passions try to stir. You'll be clambering up a mountain peak of personal desire, while an amble in the foothills is what you'd prefer. About your affair, all the lies you have to tell, and the stab of shame when you give a false name, checking into a Novotel, as he tells you again how much he cares, all the things about you he misses. You'll begin to feel like a hamster on a wheel of a grim treadmill of kisses. And I'll see it in the way you look, I'll hear it in your sighs as you lie awake beside me in the night. And half of me will watch you with a heart as cold as ice, while the other half will want to reach and hold you tight. But we'll keep it all together as married couples do, 'cause I love you and I'll never let you go. But sometimes late it's night when it's just me and you, we'll look at one another and we will know. Maybe you should have an affair with some good-looking younger guy. He'll be slightly dumb with a pert little bum, which one day catches your eye.
Well done. Wow.
Very
It's not a
reminiscent
usual
of
song. I have to admit that's not a very usual song. If somebody else has got a song tonight encouraging their partner to have an affair, then I give up.
it was very Victoria Wood, if you don't mind me saying so. Terence.
All right.
Stephen Sondheim. That was like a Sondheim. Jay Thackeray.
Yeah.
That
all
was
the elements.
great, Terence. That was the lyrics are one, and it's unusual to see a classical guitar.
Yeah, it's a nice guitar. I'm very lucky to have it.
Oh, that was great lyrics, man. Great.
That was well done.
I totally agree with Charlie too with the Victoria Wood reference, because she had some really funny songs like that one, and sort of touched on topics like that, like encouraging your partner to have an affair. That was fantastic, Terence. Loved it.
I hadn't thought of it, and it was just one of those weird things. It was, I mean, without wanting to overshare with the group, my partner was having a difficult time in her life, and I was just thinking what it would be like, and I just think it's very difficult to cheer her up. It was before lockdown; we couldn't go on holiday, And I said, so what would one do? And then I just suddenly came up with this idea of the song, which had nothing to do with my partner or on my relationship, but I just thought that'd be a very funny song. And then once I started writing the song, it became more serious. I began to see that actually there are married couples probably watching this. They sort of know the other sides, their partner's up to something, but the marriage is too important to give up. These things are complicated. So I wanted to capture both the ridiculousness and the poignancy of that kind of situation.
Well, you've given me a lot of ideas. Just listen to that song, because I love Western movies. And I just thought if my wife had an affair, I mean, I could go on Wednesday nights and watch Western movies all night.
You've got an extra verse there already, Charlie.
Yeah. I think it's my turn, is it?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to do something really dangerous now. I've never sung this song in front of other people before, but my daughter and her husband during the pandemic have been working from home. I don't know about you guys, but I was very productive during the pandemic, writing a lot of songs about how the pandemic affected me and all that kind of carry on. And this is, the two of them were working from home and the children were off school as well, which created a kind of a situation. And the song goes like this. Working from home, it's a mile a minute. Stuck in the room with the kids all in it. I'm playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home. It's so hard to juggle between the boss and a hug and a snuggle. My whole way's is one big struggle. I'm working from home. The baby wants his bottle, and the boss is on the phone. And Jill's on Zoom in the back bedroom, and Jackie just sits and moans. And the dog wants to go walkies, and the cat's spitting up fur balls. I'm way behind on the daily grind and conference calls. I'm working from home, it's a mile a minute. Stuck in the room with the kids all in it. Playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home, yeah, I'm working from home. It's hard to juggle between the boss and the hug and the snuggle. My whole day is just one big struggle. I'm working from home. Dad, can I have a cookie? Dad, can I have a treat? All my kids seem to do all day is eat and eat and eat. They think that I'm a teacher. They think that I know it all. But history and geography, they're not my scene at all. Because I'm working from home, it's a mile a minute. Stuck in the room with the kids all in it. Playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home, it's hard to juggle between the boss and a hug and a snuggle. My whole day just one big struggle. I'm working from home. I've got my shirt and tie on. It looks so good on screen, but no one knows that down below my pajamas remain unseen. My pajamas remain unseen. I don't know if I'll make it This chaos won't survive, but where to go I just don't know. There's nowhere I can hide because I'm working from home. It's a mile a minute, stuck in the room with the kids all in, playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home. I'm working from home. It's hard to juggle between the job and a hug and a snuggle. My whole day just one big struggle. I'm working from home. Yes, I'm working from home. Did I make it?
Well done, but your audio dropped out, Charlie. I don't know what we heard you, but your volume got way, way, way low. Did you guys hear it? Was it also low? Charlie, could you check
You
your,
went very low, Charlie. We could hear you, but your volume went real low.
Well, yeah, I can hear it now. Yeah. Is that any better?
yeah, I think so.
Try it again, Charlie.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better.
Would it be all right if you did that song? Could you do it again for everyone else who didn't put their volume to 20?
Okay. Okay. If you didn't get the beginning, it's about what it's like to work from home when your family are off school, the kids are off school, you're there with your wife, and it's sort of a chaos happens. It goes like this. I'm working from home, it's a mile a minute, stuck in the room with the kids all in it, playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home, it's hard to juggle between the boss and a hug and a snuggle. My whole day's just one big struggle. I'm working from home. The baby wants his bottle, and the boss is on the phone, and Jill's on Zoom in the back bedroom, and Jack just sits and moans. The dog wants to go walkies, the cat's spitting up fur balls. I'm way behind on the daily grind. My wife's on a conference call because I'm working from home. It's a mile a minute, stuck in the room with the kids all in it, playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home. It's hard to juggle between the boss and a hug and a struggle. My whole day is just one big struggle. I'm working from home. Dad, can I have a cookie? Dad, can I have a treat? All my kids seem to do all day is eat and eat and eat. They think that I'm a teacher. They think that I know it all. But geography and history, they're not my bag at all. Because I'm working from home, it's a mile a minute, stuck in the room with the kids all in it, playing the game, but I just can't win it. I'm working from home.
Charlie?
Hard to juggle between the boss and a
Charlie, I think Brittany turned the knob the wrong way. No.
Nothing.
No. Brittany, turn the knob the other way.
You had it good. Twice. It was almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
My goodness. Wow.
It went down.
Can we have a commercial break?
Oh, we
Sure.
can take a commercial break. Sure. Oh my goodness. But it was just funny because exactly where it got low the first time around, it turned around the second time.
He's
yeah.
wondering if it's on auto noise.
Yeah. If you
Nathan.
could maybe check the settings to make sure you're not on auto suppression. I don't know. It was crazy. But I
went
love the
down.
song.
Yeah,
I
we'll
didn't
get
mind
beyond
hearing it twice. I love the story.
Could you keep us just
But
go to
but your
somebody else
but your
and
volume needs to come up again. If
try and sort this out.
Oh, it's
there
getting
again.
you're going up.
Yeah.
You're better.
Yeah, we have it
You're
we have
better.
it as high as it'll go now at this
That's
stage.
it. That's it.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Come back.
It just gradually went down as the song progressed.
That's me. That's old age.
No.
not like that. No.
So Breffney wants, if you could go ahead without me for a few minutes, and Breffney is going to work on the sound here.
Sure, it sounds
Okay.
good right now, Charlie.
No,
Huh?
but if he
Just
definitely
keep
wants to
Breffney
work on
off
it,
it.
let him work on it, Harry. It's all good.
Yeah, but he's still not happy, Breffney. He still wants you to go and leave him on his own here until he turns knobs and puts faders up and down and things, you know.
Well, I will say that I love the sentiment of the song from what I heard, and I love the story, and it brought me to complete smiles, and very relatable.
Well, you can find it up on my Facebook page if you want to look in there. You should be able to find it. I think I put it up there yesterday or the day before. So have a go.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll let Brittany do his thing, and we'll head it over to Simon. Simon, thank you
Okay,
all, by the way, for being part of this. I'm enjoying just listening to the conversations here. Usually it's I need to help drive it, but you guys amongst yourselves pure magic. So thank you.
Well, I mentioned earlier this guy in Nashville named Gary Burr, very good songwriter, and he transplanted a set of chords and lyrics from the song that I originally put to him, and we together wrote this really, I think a very pretty song, and it's in F, which is, it's a great key on a piano. It's a nightmare on guitar unless you capo or capo. Someone has said this is a very strange way of saying capo, but whether it's capo or capo doesn't matter. So it's in F, and here it is. It's called.
I think the original word is Capodistra.
Capodistra, exactly.
Yeah. So capo
sounds like the goddess, Greek goddess of capoing. I don't know.
Yeah.
If my love for you was drops of rain, they would fill up a lake, and you could swim in that lake forever, never reach the shore. If my love for you was roses in bloom, they would fill up a room, and you could walk through that room forever, never find the door. Imagine my love was a song. It would sound so pure and last so long, and the melody would go on and on, telling you how I'd feel. If my love for you was stars in the sky, they would fill up the night, and you'd be lit by their light forever, and find your way to me. Tell me what you need to bring your perfect love to me. If it's rain or roses, that's what I'll give. I'm telling you how I'd feel. If my love for you was drops of rain, they would fill up a lake, and you could swim in that lake forever. If my love was raindrops, if my love was roses, if my love was stars.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Simon, that was stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Oh,
and I felt like Michael McDonald was probably one of the first things that sprung to mind, but it sounded like some of those gorgeous 80s ballads, like Dreams by REO Speedwagon, or that kind of thing. It just had that gorgeous flow to it. And I know you were saying that you wouldn't be you'd be more on the melodic side and rhythmic side than lyrical, but when you get into a groove like that, do you find, I call it kind of grooving into bed, like trying to get comfortable when you're going to sleep, do you find words just kind of come up and suggest themselves? Because the flow to your meter just feels so natural.
Well, the whole key for the song, to the song for me and for Gary, was If My Love, and the analogies, and I think I came up with the first one. If my love for you was drops of rain, it would fill up a lake, and you could swim in that lake forever. And that really just kind of opened the door to the other two, the roses in bloom and stars in the sky. And I've always been a big fan of McCartney. I mean, I love McCartney, but he in turn was a fan of Sondheim and Berlin, and most of the people that we've said in the last hour. So to play, and that left hand, that descending left hand that Bach, I believe Bach, he must have been left-handed, because he has these wonderful descending lines and everything kind of fitted together. So yeah, it was one of those rare occasions where everything came together. And one of the reasons that I write songs was, oh, wow. Because if it sounds this good the next day, then you know you're onto something, you know. And luckily it did. So thank you.
I think Simon, the Rhodes sound, you know, it gives you that, you know, you're suddenly back in the 80s when you hear that Rhodes sound, you know. And you're lucky that has a keyboard. You can play keyboard as well as guitar, because that gives you another option. You know, you might play the song on the guitar and it's all right, but then suddenly, you know, I work a lot in a studio with a friend of mine called Paul Gurney, who's a wonderful piano player. He's a multi-instrumentalist, but he can. I go up with a song that I was going to do on guitar, and then he joins in on piano. Oh no, we'll do it. We'll make it a piano song. It's much nicer, you know. That kind of,
yeah.
Yeah,
there's a big difference between guitar and piano, and you're absolutely right. To play this song on the guitar, it just doesn't have the little magic that you know, a piano
chord versions. Yeah.
Thanks, great. I know we're getting short on time, so let's hand it over. How are we doing, Jeff?
Well, I'm good with time. This is going long, but it's fine by me. We're here, so it's all good.
Okay,
but,
good.
Colm, it's yours.
Okay, well, I couldn't do a Jeff Pulver show with Charlie McGettigan without doing a song that the two of us have actually written together. So it's funny, Charlie, that you mentioned that you are kind of on a Harry Nilsson buzz, because every time I've done this song, people say, oh, I love that. I actually think Terence pointed it out before. He said, I love that Harry Nilsson bridge section. So it's funny that before you even got onto a Harry Nilsson buzz that you were sort of preempting yourself. But
It's
I'm going to
weird.
do...
Weird. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it's funny how influences find their way around. But this is a song Charlie and I wrote together, and there's lyrics in it. There's a lyric, her grandpa smokes a big chocolate cigar. And I think things have gone so PC today, I don't even know if you could have a lyric like that in it, but maybe we get a concession because we said chocolate cigar as opposed to an actual cigar. But this is called My Woman, She Lives in a Peppermint House. My woman, she lives in a peppermint house. She got a cat, she got a dog, she got a gingerbread mouse. Her grandpa smokes a big chocolate cigar. Oh, and she loves to play ragtime music in her bubblegum car. They say she's crazy, they say she's mad, they say she's lazy, they say she's bad. She drinks tango juice in every bar. Oh, but she loves to play ragtime music in her bubblegum car. Ragtime music takes her up to heaven. Joplin rags have always been her haven. When she's been misbehaving, she wears tight dresses with roses on. She's quite impressive in her hair salon. She hangs her coat upon a shooting star. Oh, but she loves to play ragtime music in her bubblegum car. Ragtime music takes her up to heaven. Joplin rags have always been her haven, and she been misbehaving. My woman, she lives in a peppermint house. She got a cat, she got a dog, she got a gingerbread mouse. Her grandpa smokes a big chocolate cigar. Ah, but she loves to play ragtime music in her bubblegum car.
Wow, well done. Wow.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was great, man.
I
Thanks,
love
man.
that song.
Ragtime on a guitar, and
Mhm.
I just had images of those little the cars, and all the clowns keep getting out.
Yeah, yeah.
Just and like bubbles and noisemakers and shit. It was you could write a whole mini series on that song. That was just that was great.
It's a fantastic song. I'll tell you what I like about it and why it does remind me of Harry Nilsson. It's just about the joy of mad words and wonderful music. And it's about a whole history of 20th century music and just songs just for the sake of it. And so the nonsense lyrics, not that they're nonsense, but the lyrics which don't immediately they create this this world of song are just a sort of celebration of the fun of music. And that's what really comes through. And I think really few songs do that, I think.
Thanks, Terence. Appreciate that, brother.
So who came up with the idea? So how did it work? Talk us through
yeah. So initially I had sent Charlie a lyric like my woman, she lives in the Peppermint House. It wasn't, I can't remember the direct lyric, but I probably sent him like a verse. And Charlie came back straight away. And he I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chal, but I think you had like the kind of flow of the ragtime music part already, and then you sort of attach the lyrics to it like that. But I love it, and for me, kind of like what you were saying, Terence, and the exact same as you, Simon. It's the color that keeps coming up. I can see like the ice cream pinks and the chocolate browns and stuff like that. It is like it's a festival of color.
Funny, Colm, you should say. Generally, when I look at a lyric, almost immediately I see how they scan, how the meter goes, how the feel goes, and I say, oh yeah, but sure, all I have to do is write notes now into the beats. It's like a drummer writing a song, you feel the rhythm of the words. It doesn't really, it's the sound the words make rather than what they mean. You hear this. Dump, 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 dump. The words are written that way. So yeah, you might not have intended that way, but that's the way I read them. And that's basically that's all there is to it, as Bruce Forsyth used to say. That's all there is to it.
But it's interesting, that business of words just demanding to be sung. There's a great book by Sami Khan about lyric writing, and he says the most important thing is singability. Forget grammar. Forget sense. If it sounds good when you sing it, that's all that matters. And there are a number of lines. I can't remember which it was. There was a number of lines where you think, well, actually, if you put that down on paper, it just looks ridiculous. But in a song, it works. And in that song, I just think the words. As I say, the whole thing is playful. It's great.
Playful and magical and fun, and it's the fun, right? And it's the fun, the joy as a listener. Watching and listening to it being performed, it brings out that special energy. It's just beautiful.
And funny that you should say it, Terence, because with your song where you were quoting Noel Harrison and Paul Simon, it was only when I was singing it there that I noticed the reference to Fats Waller with Ain't Misbehaving, and it's on the augmented chord as well, which that's all Charlie. But I just think, I'm so blessed to be able to have a collaborator like Charlie. And I think from the word go, it just, there was never any hesitancy. It was just like song, 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 song. And on my part, Charlie's been very kind to mention me in some of his radio interviews too. And anytime he does, my mother gets like a spree of messages from relatives say, Charlie, we got to get mentioned Colm today. And it's a heartwarming thing. But thank you for your kind words, Terence.
I'll send you the invoice later on.
Yeah. I think we'll all be knocking on Charlie's door or Colm's door. It must be great working together. Okay, this is a song I wrote a few years ago, and it was when I was just getting going as a songwriter. I began songwriting very late in my life. I'd been a writer before that, a professional writer of prose, of unmusical writing. And so when I was getting going, would go a lot of open mics, and in all these open mics, there are these, quite often men of a certain age getting up on stage and just giving it their all. And I thought there was something quite heroic about all that. And so I wrote a song about them. And I'd like to dedicate this to everybody out in Jeff's Place, everyone who's at home with their guitar, playing along, for the great, music is for everybody. And it's kept us sane during these mad times. And so that's for everybody who plays a musician, every plays a musical instrument out there. This is for them. Or sings. Let me take you to a smoky little dive. I was rocking the joint, I was keeping that music live. Let me show you a girl in tight jeans, standing nearby, surveying the scene. She had a kind of hungry look in her eye. Let me confess, I thought I'd chance my hand. I asked that girl if she'd like to hang out with the band. She turned to me with a look on her face, which said I wasn't just a loser, I wasn't even in the race. She said, Grandpa, I'll say this slow so you understand. Everywhere I go, in all the bars, I see sad old bastards with guitars, singing out their youth, at least they try. With their beer guts sagging and their bald head shining, singing, hi-ho, silver lining. They're everywhere and nowhere, baby, wish they'd die. It's a little harsh. Let me tell you, that night I was home alone. That girl's cruel words had just chilled me to the bone. I looked across to my CDs, they just seemed to cough and wheeze. I was looking at a musical old folks' home. I went to the kitchen and I turned on my radio. The DJ was playing some kind of golden oldies show. She said, hey kids, isn't it great to hear another fabulous hit from 1968? I heard a little voice in my head and this is what she said. Everywhere I go, in all the bars, I see sad old bastards with guitars, singing out their youth, at least they try. With their beer guts sagging and their bald heads shining, singing hi-ho, silver lining. They're everywhere and nowhere, baby, wish they'd die. Fell asleep, and in my dream I came across the strangest scene. There was Buddy and John Lennon and George and the King. They were strumming guitars, they were harmonizing, they were like rock and roll angels. Sitting on a cloud, they were playing it long, they were playing it loud. They sang Stairway to Heaven, knocking on heaven's door. Then the voice of the Lord went 1, 2, 3, 4. Everywhere I go, in all the bars, I see sad old bastards with guitars, singing out their youth, at least they try. With their beer guts sagging and their bald head shining, singing hi-ho, silver lining. They're everywhere and nowhere, baby, I really can't imagine why.
Well done.
Brilliant.
Wow.
And you know, Jeff Beck hated that song.
I know you did.
I loved it. We used to sing that in the band years and years and years and years and years ago. Yeah, yeah. Great song.
I gathered if you yelled out "Sing Hi Ho Silver Lining" at one of his gigs, you got thrown out.
Probably.
I hate these precious musicians.
Wow.
Nice to hear a swing rhythm.
Yeah, it's not. I feel musically I've rather lowered the tone this evening. As I strummed out those four chords or whatever, I thought, after Colm's brilliant finger picking, I think people are going to say, "Oh dear."
Oh man.
We didn't like to say anything, but
Thanks, Charlie.
Great.
Terence,
Wow.
Terence, you were saying that you were a writer of prose for years before but what's amazing is you, and I'm sure all of the guys here will agree with me, you have such an amazing melodic ear. You really have a gift for melody, and when you think, wow, what a great line, then you just give another one and another one and another one, and it's so captivating to listen to. Again, I come back to what Charlie said about the Victoria Wood reference. I can totally hear that, but I would consider that a compliment because she's weirdly, I find the music much easier than the lyrics, and actually writing prose and fiction and everything, I think has done me more harm than good as a songwriter. I think as a songwriter, you've got to keep things simple, and the further I've got away from writing prose, I think the better I've got, because you've just got to keep it simple, and not try and get too many ideas, and also not draw attention to yourself as a writer. Just keep it simple, I think.
Funny, you're so right. I spend more time editing my lyrics all the time to get it as simple as possible, because they have to be sung, you know. And the Victoria Wood's songs were really good, but they would be difficult for another person to sing, because she had her own inflection and a way of saying them. Jack Thackeray, similarly, the cat came back the very next day. The cat came back. I didn't want it, but he managed to get the simplicity really, really well.
Yeah.
You immediately listen to the story.
I mean, it was interesting. There's an interesting quote from Cole Porter, somebody who used the word sophisticated about his lyrics, which of course they are. And he said, I work every day to remove that element from the songs. I mean, that's exactly what he didn't want. He didn't want it to be clever. He didn't want it to be sophisticated. He just wanted the song to speak for itself.
I think it's me next, is it?
Yes. You ready with the audio?
Talking of clever and sophisticated,
yes.
Over to Tom.
How are we sounding? Am I there or thereabouts?
Fine.
Okay. This song, again, is another collaboration, but in a very different way, in that I'm a big Facebook fan. I find it I'd have to have an operation to get my hand off my phone out of my hand, because I'm on Facebook all the time. But I saw this wonderful poem on Facebook one day, and it was called "Dust If You Must." And it was a great sentiment to it. And as soon as I saw it, no more than when I see a Colm Gavin lyric, as soon as I saw it, I'm talking 5 minutes, it was a song, but I didn't know who had written the poem. So I put it up on Facebook. I said, does anybody know who wrote this song or wrote this poem? And nothing happened for about 10 days. And eventually I got a message. And it turned out to be a message from somebody who's originally from Kirke but lives in London. And he said, yeah, I know who wrote that poem, and I have her phone number. And it turned out to be a lady called Rose Milligan, who lived in Lancaster in England. So I called her up, and this 82-year-old woman answered the phone, and she couldn't understand what I was talking about. I said, I really like your poem, and I've written a song based on your poem. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I could send you something. I could send you an MP3. And she said, what is that? And I said, I sent it to you over the internet. Oh, I don't do internet, So the only thing I could do was I did a CD of the song, and I sent it. She gave me her address, and I sent it off. And I spent about 3 or 4 days biting me nails. God, I wonder, did she like it? And I had given her my phone number. She rang me up, and she said she loved it, because she said she never got a penny out of the poem, so maybe she'd get a few bob of royalties out of the song. And she did. It was lovely to be able to send her royalties. Sorry, are we lost? Bethany? But if you keep changing it, I don't know whether we'll. Anyway, this is the song. It's called "Dust If You Must." It goes like this. Dust Dust if you must, but wouldn't it be better to paint a picture or write a letter? Make a cake or plant a seed. Ponder on the difference in a want and need. Oh, dust if you must. Dust till you bust. But always trust your wanderlust. Dust if you must, but there's not much time. With rivers to swim and mountains to climb and music to hear and books to read and friends to cherish and a life to lead. Oh, dust if you must. Dust till you bust. But always trust your wanderlust. Yeah, dust if you must, but there's a world out there with the sun in their eyes and the wind in your hair. A flutter of snow, a shower of rain. This day will not come around again. Oh, dust if you must. Dust till you bust. But always trust your wanderlust. Let those good times always find you. Leave those troubled times far behind you. Oh, dust if you must, but bear in mind, old age will come and it's not kind. And when you go, and go you must, you yourself will make a lots more dust. Oh, dust if you must. Dust till you bust, but always trust your wanderlust.
We got there.
That was nice.
We got 90. I got 90% of it, and then you
90% of it faded the last
did the
little bit.
downhill thing again.
I think I'll do it from home anymore.
And now your audio is way low. Damn. Wow.
I love that guitaring.
Yeah, sounds beautiful, man.
What sort of guitar is that, Charlie?
A Martin.
Martin. All right. Yeah.
Translate.
Charlie, I can't hear Charlie. Do you guys hear
We
Charlie?
can't hear you, Charlie. Sorry, mate.
I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry.
It seems like a battery thing. Couldn't it be a battery thing? It just suddenly keeps fading like that.
Could be a battery. I don't know. I
think sign language might help. I'm sorry, mate. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Anyway, listen, I'm going to have to move on because I have to duck out of here at about 5 to 4. I've got.
No worries. So do two back to back.
I'm going to do my two back to back.
I did have a question that came up. I just unrelated to what you've done so far. Someone was asking about songwriting, and they know that on, I think it was Shooting Star, that Ringo Starr has a songwriting credit with you.
No. It's funny you should say that, because if you go on Elton John's website, if you've got nothing better to do, on his discography, he says he did backing vocals on Shooting Star. It's a load of bollocks. He didn't. And Ringo certainly does not have a songwriting credit. It was written by Paul Rodgers and always will be written by Paul Rodgers.
Good.
So, but,
just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. I said earlier that I'm in recovery, and I don't mind telling people if it helps. If it helps people, address whatever problems they have, then great. I mean, it's an open secret with me. And the next song that I'm going to sing was I wrote in rehab, and they they allowed me to have a guitar, and as long as I signed something that I wouldn't hang myself with the guitar strings. I swear to God, it's a true story. And I said, I don't, I'm not going to. I've got too much to live for. So anyway, this is called It's Over. Look down a golden road. Put down your heavy load. Listen to the voice within. You have a choice now to win. It's over. It's over. Let it go. Those tortured nights, the sweat and tears, the guilt and shame, the wasted years will fade away into the past. You have a spirit now, hold it fast, 'cause it's over. It's over, let it go. Let the power drain the poison from the fountain that flows within us, everyone, and take it to the top of the highest mountain and cast it into the setting sun. Sunrise, a new day, clear eyes, a better way, clear head, no cloudy mind. That life is gone now, leave it far behind. It's over. It's over. Let it go. Let it go. It's over. It's over. Let it go.
Wow.
Most expensive song I ever wrote. In terms of finances and emotional toll.
Wow.
I don't mind talking about, like I said, if it helps, because addiction now is such a problem. I mean, it always was, of course, over the decades. But the thing about nowadays is, it's a lot more out in the open than it used to be. And the fact that the reason I never really got into recovery was because I was ashamed. I kept it hidden. But now it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on WhatsApp, it's on everything. And in a way, it's kind of diminished the stigma.
Simon, did you write that while you were in it, or when it was all over?
And it was one of the songs that just came out. It just poured out. There was no rewrites or anything. It just
flowed through.
Boom. Yeah.
Did it help?
Yes, it did. It did. It's become. I'm on the board of a couple of rehabs here in New York and Boston, and it's been used on their websites and their fundraisers. So, yeah, it's helped. Thank goodness.
A close friend of mine I went to high school with, went to medical school. He has his entire practice is focusing on helping artists through rehab. He's nowadays he deals with opioids, but he works with the Recording Academy, and he was actually he was recruited by them to he actually had a recording studio in Manhattan, and he had a bunch of jam bands, as that was the people who liked to play at his studio. And Jeff Buckley just died. It was the next days when he started doing, because he recorded Buckley, he recorded a lot of folks, and that tripped him into, and as of my friend David Seitz, he's known as the doc that rocks, but his specific focus is he does acoustic. He got into the folk scene. He was recording a bunch of young folk singers when I was in high school, people that made it rather big, from Tracy Chapman and on up, and but the last 20 years he's been dealing with rehab, and And I actually have a lot of friends. Some of them are actually here who also went to rehab, and it's part of that. Part of the price, I think, of being an artist at some point is you go to extremes. But being
Yeah.
able to provide a place to bring people home and to let people know it's okay to recover is the most beautiful thing. And to have your music be played and to be heard and to inspire is, breathtaking. So thank you for sharing that song,
Yeah.
Simon.
Well, as I said, what fuels addiction? One of the many fuels is the shame and just hiding it and thinking, I'm the only one going through this. That's a big accelerant, to use a fireman's term. And to be able to go to meetings, to be able to openly talk about it and not feel guilt and shame, it's a huge lift. And to be able to help, to help people. It's a day-to-day struggle. It's especially now with opioids. They're bloody things, those things. But anyway, I'm going to move on because
Yeah. So
like I
now,
said, I've
now,
got
now
to-
kick off the
and-
fourth round because you have to go. So you take the next
okay,
song.
I want to just proceed this number one by saying thank you, Jeff, and Colm, Terence, and Charlie. It's been wonderful. I learned a lot in the last hour and a half. I tell you, lyrics are just gorgeous, and the songwriting was wonderful. I was here in 9/11, which 20 years this year is hard to believe, and I saw it all. And I worked for the Red Cross for 6 weeks, going back and forth to the site, what they call the pile. And on the way home, one of the days was when the relatives visited the site, and we were there. And the first wave of relatives came with stuffed animals and photos and flowers and stuff, and it was one of the most sad, emotional hours of my life to watch these people go down the ramp and lay their floral tributes and so on. And on the way home, I this song popped into my head, and it's called "Message to the Lost." Weep no more, dry your tears. Do not grieve for me, 'cause I am not here. I am in her eyes when our baby smiles. I am on the face of that soft sleeping child. I am in the brightest star shining on a moonlit night. I am under the wings of an eagle in flight. So weep no more, dry your tears. Do not grieve for me, 'cause I am not here. I'll be in the breeze that flows through fields of corn. I'll be in the bird song that greets each new day's dawn. I'll be in the hush of winter's first snow. I'll be in the rays of that sunset's last glow. So weep no more, dry your tears. Do not grieve for me, I am not here.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow.
That was called Message from the Lost.
Wow. Has that been on the soundtrack of any movie, Simon? Oh my goodness. Wow.
No, I just wrote it for me and them, the 3,000 people who died.
Well, I used to work in the World Trade Center. My life was spared because I was fired in July of 1996, but the company I worked for lost almost 700 people. and for me, it was getting fired saved my life. But I knew I worked in systems at Cantor Fitzgerald Securities, and about 400 people that I knew passed, and just intense. So thank you for sharing those words and that energy. Oh my goodness, it just hits real hard, and it's
Thank you, Guy. Thank you,
Most
and thank you, everyone who's on board. And I hope we meet again, like Celebrity Squares.
So did you like it though? So before you go, did you like the feel? Do you have the feeling that you're sharing the stage tonight?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Did it feel like you were on stage with others to get tonight? Like
Oh yeah, I love it. I love. I miss playing live. My God, I haven't played live for 18 months, and it's just wonderful. But not just for the ability to kind of show off. I'm a professional show off, I guess. But I love music and I love learning, and being with these three great songwriters. It was kind of humbling because some of the lyrics I heard and the ideas, the little cartoon and having an affair and Charlie's songs. I'm very humbled. So thanks, guys. And
thank you. Really.
Till the next time.
Till next time. I'm going to hand this over to Charlie. Charlie, I want you to reduce your stress. I apologize for the technology. I feel bad.
I've now moved. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I've now moved to my iPhone. So as long as you can hear me, I'm happy enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would apologize. I apologize on behalf of everyone who wrote a software product that had trouble right when you were relying on it the most. And so, would you like to take the next song?
Well, I wasn't going to do this song, but it's a kind of a song that leads on after the last one. It's kind of 9/11 related. My daughter went to New York for summer break. When she was in college, she went to work in New York for the summer. And this is a song based on her experience. It's called "You, the Towers, and Me." I still have that photograph that someone took of us with the New York skyline up behind. It's just the way it was. A look of laughter in our eyes. We were happy and carefree. I still have that photograph of you, the towers, and me. Who could forget that summer? We had such a crazy time. When I worked for a plumber, and you had the five and dime. The words are gone. Place to be, and it seemed to last forever. You, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. The city streets belong to us. You, the towers, and me. Those summer days, they ended just as summers tend to do. Bit by bit we grew apart, sought out pastures new. But I look into that picture now to see if I can see the wonder of the love that shone. You, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. I wish I could go back, but it was you, the towers, and me. Took it out that dreadful day as I wiped away a tear. But all our days of innocence just seemed to disappear. Now you have gone, the towers have gone, we lost our liberty. I wish I could go back when it was you, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. You, the towers, and me. I wish I could go back when it was you, the towers, and me.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. I was chills. It's amazing how music just takes you back to a moment in time, right? Those words, the melody, and the feelings around it. Wow.
Well, Jeff, when I was in New York, and I think anybody that ever has been to New York will always feel at home there because it's such a universal city. And when the Twin Towers thing happened, it was like as if it happened in Dublin or it happened in London because it was our city that was hit. It was our people. Even though there were your people. But we've sort of grown up synchronized to Americana, for example, in the music, but in the American way. And then all that disappeared, and that particular day was dreadful. Anyway, that's what it was about.
No, I felt it. I was actually I had just sold my business. Ironically, I started a company the day after I got fired, and I sold my business the day before 9/11. So I always tell people being lucky is okay. But then
Yeah.
on 9/11, I was actually in Atlanta for a press conference to celebrate what had happened, and the press conference never happened. And I just thought of how grateful I was to be alive, and how grateful I was. And then when I realized what truly happened, it was shocking. And some memories will just never go away, and we won't forget for good reasons. But I worked at the World Trade Center. I started my job 6 months after they tried to blow it up the first time, and I just knew too many people, and it was just really. But it's you know what's beautiful about what you wrote though is those are feelings that and memories that will never be forgotten, and resonate strong. So it's it's I know you took me to a different place, Charlie. I say thank you between you and between the last two songs. It's like I went back in time, and I thank you for that. And truly grateful to share the presence with you here today. It's just magical. I do want to say thank you. Truly, it is an honor. I don't want to take it for granted for all three of you and for Simon for me to be here with you guys. I am just a bystander in the corner here, listening and appreciating everything. So thank you so much. Truly. Colm, how are you doing? You having
Yeah,
fun tonight?
yeah, I'm having a great time, a great time. And thank you for putting this together, Jeff, because I totally echo Simon's sentiments in that it's been such a learning experience. And Charlie mentioned at one point after one of Terence's songs how you can hear ideas in other people's work sometimes, and it's hugely influential. And yeah, I'm just delighted to be here. So, seeing as this will be the last song I'll sing, um, I tend to sign off most online live gigs that I do with this song. And it's a very universal tale, just this idea that somebody comes through your life and brings magic with them and takes you on this incredible experience, and then they're gone. And I used to set myself tasks from a lyrical perspective on write a sentiment with the simplest lyric possible and a more fancy schmancy lyric. And I always end up going with the simpler one. And this is an example of that. This is called Bye Bye Little Bird. Bye, 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 little bird. And on account of all the wrong things that you've heard, there's nothing I can do or say to try to make you stay. So it's bye, 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 little bird. Bye, 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 little bird. You're now sailing toward the mountains that you prefer. Go forth, but think of me. Be everything you long to be. Oh, and bye, 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 little bird. To know there's someone to fly home to has surely made a man of me. But now my heart is a shipless ocean, from thoughts of one I'll never see. Bye, 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 little bird. And on account of all the wrong things that you've heard, to the one you love one day, I hope they never have to say bye, 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 little bird. Bye, 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 little bird.
Oh wow, that was beautiful.
Thanks,
Oh,
Jeff.
that
was so nice. Such a beautiful song.
Thanks, Terence. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
That was I appreciate the sentiment and just the story. It's funny when I was listening to your voices. It's like it literally takes me to other places, and I just close my eyes and just feel it. And it's and your voice is so. What can I tell you, Colm? I'm a fan, so it's hard
Thanks,
to
Jeff.
be unbiased here listening because I appreciate the songwriting, the lyrics, and the storytelling all together. It's just absolutely beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And thanks to everybody for the lovely comments too.
Before we end the show and before Terence goes, I do want to say that next week I'm actually having a special show, which is believe it or not, music from this. I actually doing a special music of the '60s show, and almost everyone who was performing, except for one person, was their parents were alive in the '60s, maybe or maybe not. But I found it fascinating that next week, music that was originally performed by the Supremes, Bob Dylan, Beach Boys, Neil Sedaka, Simon & Garfunkel, the Youngbloods, the Byrds, Donovan, Wilson Pickett, the Monkees, Sam and Dave, Buffalo Springfield, Frankie Valli, Burt Bacharach, the Turtles, Everly Brothers, the Beatles, the Mamas and the Papas, and Joni Mitchell are being performed next week from I think 7 or 8 different artists so far. And I'm very interested in hearing how certain songs made it through from the '60s to now. And yeah, and what I found fascinating was which songs were chosen, because those were not necessarily the songs I would have chosen. And I just find it amazing how music, becomes classical over time from generation to generation. And so it is. So that's next week, and. It could be music from any generation, but I just found it the Beatles, of everyone who played, I asked everyone to give me their playlist to make sure there was overlap. And there was only overlap on some Beatles songs. Everything else was more or less unique, but 2 Turtle songs, which surprised me. And anyway, that's next week, and I want to thank everyone who's tuning in. I'm Jeff Pulver. This is Jeff's Place, and it's just really special to be able to have a place to bring together the world to play music. I kind of take it for granted. Technical issues aside, that will happen no matter where we are, even on stage at a live theater. But to be able to have a global audience, which we've had again today, folks from the West Coast of the US and Canada, all the way to the Middle East, from parts of Europe, it's just magical. And, I appreciate that during the pandemic, people could not play live, but this gave an opportunity to create this and to bring together people who would never normally see each other, hear each other's music, and connect, and dare I say, have meaningful conversations. So I thank you for that. And when the world gets to be a better place where people feel free to travel and to play out, I still hope that some of you consider coming back, because I don't want to give up on what we're doing here, because I think it's meaningful in a very big way. And Terence, give it to you. You got the last song of the round, and your music, you see, is loved by so many people, Terence. And
thanks so much, Jeff. I just wanted to say this is a song. I was trying to think what to end tonight with, and this is a song which is it was inspired back in the '60s when I was in my young teens. In my teens, I was in 1967 in San Francisco, and there was sex and drugs everywhere except where I was. And originally it was going to be a song about missing out on things in life, but then it became about how music changes us. and it's called Saved by a Song. And it just seemed to me the right song to end with, because you guys, Harry and Lauren and Jeff, you've just done so much to save us with songs. And I just want to thank you all so much, and everybody who's been along tonight and in previous nights. It's the highlight of the week. It's such an interesting and enjoyable thing to do. And I hope that it'll continue beyond this ghastly pandemic. And that you'll keep in touch. I've got my website is terenceblacker.com. I've got Terence Blacker Music on Facebook. But this really goes out to Jeff, Lauren, and Harry with thanks. I met an older woman, divorced and 29. I was a young fool, I didn't understand what she had in mind. And though it was the city and the summer of love, we were both alone. Two strangers in Chinatown, far away from home. We walked to Buena Vista, me and this lonely ex-wife. The smell of grass was all around as we talked of love and life. And beyond the trees, some music played. There was a party in the park, and somewhere something was changing. In the gathering dark, and we were saved by a song, turned by a tune. Who's to say that we were dreaming on that long lost afternoon? And sometimes I think of what might have been, what life held in store. The stony path of duty, the suit behind the door. Then somewhere in the shadows of my memory, I'll find that gentle day where music drifted through the air across a misty bay, and I was saved by a song, turned by a tune. Who's to say that I was dreaming on that long lost afternoon? And all the roads we'll travel by, they shine beneath the stars. And all across that western sky, the sound of a blue guitar. Some talk of revolution, of the tide of history. Some cling to that sweet illusion of peace and harmony. And maybe in wiser times than these, we'll begin to see the light. The campfire glow beyond the trees, burning through the night, and they'll all be saved by a song, turned by a tune. Who's to say that we were dreaming on that last afternoon. Who's to say that we were dreaming?
Wow, well done. Saved by a song. Terence, thank you so much. Wow, that was beautiful. Just taken by those words and the sentiment. And yes, it's funny. Music, I think, can save all of us, in different ways. We get inspired by music. It's the lyrics sometimes, right? Sometimes it's the melodies that we can't get out of our head. Sometimes it's those words that haunt us. But in times when we need hope, I go to music, and sometimes, it's I wrote poetry, not so much lyrics. I've yet to write a melody for any song, but I have lots of words in my head sometimes that I just put down to paper. And it's thank you. I just, I'm in awe. So thank you, Terence, and really thank you all for being here. I want to say truly thanks. I also, for those of you who are tuning in, if any of you remember Harry Chapin, uh, July 16th this year will be the 40th anniversary of his sudden passing. And on July 15th, I'm hosting a show in his honor to honor the music and the memories of Harry Chapin. And so far, his son, who I think is actually the cat and Cats in the Cradle, he's coming on, Jason. And Jen Chapin said yes. And we're going to be raising money for World Hunger, for Why Hunger, which is a charity that Harry started. And the family's in the process of finding some artists that they know who love Harry Chapin's music, but heck, it's my show too. So if there are any artists here that like the music of Harry Chapin, I'm open to. I know you do, Colm. I heard your Cats in the Cradle. So, but if anyone who relates to, either inspired by, knows of, friendly with, or likes to play any of his tunes, I will have an open call for people who like to play. I will give a preference to the folks that the Chapin family suggests, because I should. But for songs that they don't take or whatever, I'm open to bring friends from here to come play. So that's July 15th. I realize it's a decade away from now, since this is just barely the end of April. But if you plan into the July, um, I'd love to have anyone who wants to come play, come play. So anyway, thank you all. Terence, Colm, Charlie, thank you. I apologize for any stress from any technology, but the love that was shared and the words that were shared were magical and beautiful. And I hope you all come back sometime, because I love your presence. And Charlie, when I watch you on YouTube with your playing with Paul, you make me cry. Not your performances, but the energy, the chills, and when you were sharing your stuff before, I was feeling that. So,
Incidentally, could I just say, Terence, if you want to contact me on Facebook, I know Colm, feel free to find me there, and maybe we can start a conversation, and who knows, maybe write a song or two.
I'd really love to do that. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look forward to that.
If you write a song, then you have to come back and perform it together.
if you want to,
They always get you in the end.
Oh, forget about if you want to. You've got to. Come on.
Wow. But Charlie, thank you for being here. Truly, thank you.
Pleasure. I got to go, guys.
All right, yeah, I get it. I know. I'm sorry we ran late. I apologize.
No problem. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks for Breffney.
Bye, Charlie.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so I think we'll officially we'll close out the show. We're gonna hang out for a little bit.
Jeez, Breffney, sorry for
be in the green room with us after the show. You're happy to hang out. But Lauren, Harry, thank you for producing. Hey, Breffney, thank you for helping, and Colm, thank you. And
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Breffney.
Pleasure. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Harry. Thank you,
Colm.
Jeff.
Oh, it's so good
Thank
to
you.
Pleasure.
have you. It's so awesome.
You guys
Pleasure.
all right, so
Fantastic.
Absolute
Thanks
pleasure.
so much, Lauren and
Terence,
Jeff.
yeah,
Pleasure.
yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
it's so good. It's so
Thank
good
you,
to
guys.
have you, and
Thank
we're glad
Jeff.
you were
Thank
here.
everybody.
And our audience, we love you guys. We're glad you're here, and hope everyone's having a good day and feeling
And
positive.
Jeff, if it was at all possible, if you could get me on that show on the 15th to play a tune, I'd
Oh,
love
I
that.
already wrote you down.
Okay, you're
for a
in
song.
already.
Amazing. Amazing.
I
Jeff
wrote it
knew.
down before I said anything, so you're
You're
in.
there. You're already
Oh,
there.
thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you so much.
But
And listen, go ahead.
What's your favorite Harry Chapin song to
Oh,
sing?
come on. we know.
WOLD.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah, probably WO. Or it's the one not the Stranger with the Melodies. Stranger with the Melodies.
Stranger with the Melodies. What about Better Place to Be? You could sing
I
that
love Better Place to Be as well. Yeah,
one.
yeah. Taxi. So many.
Taxi. Tangled Up Puppet. You know, they're all good.
Yeah.
Flowers Are Red. We should get the book. We'll be good.
Flowers Are Red is a good one. Yeah,
That's a
that
good
is a
one.
good one too.
All right. Well, so
We'll
I-
have to send you some. Yeah.
Colin was
some
the only person
suggestions.
I penciled in so far for the show.
Oh, Jeff, thank you so much.
I just, I had to be careful. I didn't know if there were family politics and stuff, and so
Sure.
there aren't any. It's just, and this year being the 40th anniversary of his passing, there's so many tributes that are coming up.
I'm afraid.
So I need to be respectful of everyone else who's doing stuff too. So,
Sure, I totally get that. Yeah.
but we're good. So that's July 15th. I will mention, because I reconfirmed it, Amy Kurland, who is founder of Bluebird in Nashville. We are going to be celebrating the 39th anniversary of the Bluebird on June 3rd. Artists to be named by Amy, but we'll know more. But that's, I don't know if that's to be a fundraiser or not, but hopefully it'll be a fundraiser celebrating 39 years of the Bluebird in Nashville. So that's on June 3rd. And music of the 60s, I just found it fascinating, Colin, when I asked the people I asked to play who said yes. Most of maybe their parents were around in the 60s, but I just find it really amazing, the song choices, because I had to look up a couple of the songs myself.
From all the artist names that you said, it seems fairly disparate. So we've got a wide range anyway.
It's a wide range and it's fairly deep. I mean, but there were 3 or 4 Beatles songs that came up. 2 different Turtle songs. I had a request. Someone wanted to play a Dylan song, but it was like 9 minutes long, so I had to I had to go for a different Dylan song because that was like, too long. Well, anyway, so it's all
If I
good.
have to head off now, so
Yeah,
Yes.
no worries.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Terence.
thanks for a great evening, all of you, and thanks, Colm. And
Thank you
thanks
for
to
your
everyone who-
songwriting.
out there. See
Wow.
you soon.
Well, there you go. So thank you all for hanging out. And Paul's here. Wow, Paul from the Commitments is in the house. Nice to see you, Paul.
Awesome.
I really just thought that was a picture, Paul. I didn't realize it was actually you're actually live. Wow, I actually thought you were a picture. Yeah, you're drumming. I know. You can unmute. You can.
Oh, sorry.
Unmute.
You can
Say hello.
unmute, Paul. It's good. You can
Sorry,
say.
sorry. I don't use Zoom too
Paul.
often. Hi, everybody.
Oh, so we had 2 drummers here the whole time.
Yeah, and you kept my
I'm a
attention
wonder.
for all that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a drummer, that's good.
Well, Simon, is a drummer too. Actually, Simon was going to teach at our school at Pulver EDU. He was going to teach drumming. He offered to. We just we did have a songwriting class though. That was fun.
I missed that one.
Yeah, well, this was awesome because for those of you who were at the songwriting class, you got more actually of Simon. I don't know, listening to him to interact with the.
I think Simon's songwriting class was more of an ask me anything about how Simon writes.
Here, Colin. Exactly.
But he actually, I think he said it took him 10 minutes to write the song "Bad Company."
Right.
Oh, wow.
But like 10 minutes, and he said some songs take years to write, and some just come to you.
I loved his last song. I thought it would make a beautiful duet with somebody like Sean Colvin.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Really.
So Jeff, what's the takeaway from all this? What are you going? What realization?
Well, I have fuel to get into my weekend. I have enough fuel to last me to next Thursday now.
Me too. Thank you. I love this show.
Thank you.
This was very special. That's why I asked that question. Do you see yourself expanding on this songwriting?
Well,
collective?
Gio, if you may have noticed, I was quiet. I was listening.
I
to everyone
noticed
else
that's
talk.
not you. I noticed that. You were in awe.
Yeah. Plus, frankly, Colm's comments about the chord changes and stuff were much more insightful than what I would say. So I just yielded to Colm.
Well, I also think that it was delightful to see these three older guys and then this young guy who was an equal to them in many ways. Colm was the young upstart who had a lot of who had lived not that long, but he knew the music from these older farts.
Yeah. Well,
Not that
Colm knows. It's true. Although, to be fair, I think the next songwriters in the round will be only women songwriters. I have to find enough who will say yes and find a date and time that works. But we've had quite a number of female singer-songwriters on the show. I just need to find a time that works for everyone's schedule so that it works. But Colm, do you want to share what inspired you to do doo-wops and stuff when you were doing that first album of yours? You know, what brought you into the 20s and 30s of music?
Funny, like the guy who produced the record, one of my good friends, Adam Walsh, we have so many similar influences. And I would arrive, he has a home studio that we call the cabin because it is like a little cabin. And we'd spend the evening, we'd have a couple of drinks, and he'd say, do you know this Neil Sedaka song, or this song by the Shirelles, or this version of Be My Baby? And so when we would come, so I would have the bare bones of a song, and then when we'd start building it up on a lot of the songs like Honeybee, Little Darling, there was just that moment to put something in the intro. And so for me, it's 3-part harmony, you know, maybe double up on the 5th harmony. And like there's on the record, it's only when you pointed out, there's like Honeybee has a shalala intro.
Right.
Good Morning Stephanie has shala walla walla, you know, which it's hard to say.
It's a nice sampling. I like it. It's artistic. It's not music. It's a lyrical sampling as opposed to tone sampling.
It's weird. It's weird because it was the most instinctive thing to do, but that's not the most instinctive thing to do.
I do have to give a shout outs to Emily and to Allie that people were just writing about in front of them. So it's just
but Emily and Allie are awesome. That is true.
It is true.